Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the real engine of the global economy. It's a market that's way bigger, and you could argue way more important than the stock market. We're talking about the bond market. You remember 2008, right? The images of the stock market in a total freefall? But you know what? That wasn't even the main event. The real drama, the thing that almost brought the entire global economy to its knees, was happening somewhere else. It was happening in the world of bonds. So, yeah, let's get into it.
All right, first things first, we got to get the lay of the land. Think of the financial world as having two totally different playing fields. You've got your fast-paced day-to-day action, and then you have the long game. And in the long game, believe me, bonds are the undisputed MVPs.
So on one side, you have the money markets. This is basically the economy's checking account, right? It's all about short-term cash, making sure the bills get paid day to day. But on the other side, that's where we're headed, the capital markets. This is more like the economy's long-term investment fund, and this is where all the big stuff happens. Seriously, this is where the future gets paid for. Capital markets are the engine that funds all the giant long-haul projects. You want to build a brand new factory? A city needs to lay down a new subway line? You're not getting that from a short-term loan. No way. You go to the capital markets to get the kind of money you might not have to pay back for years, sometimes even decades.
Okay, so right at the center of this entire universe is the debt sold by Uncle Sam himself. For ages, it's been seen as the safest place on planet Earth to park your money. But why is that? The U.S. Treasury basically sells two main flavors of long-term IOUs. You got Treasury notes, T-notes for short, that come due in 1 to 10 years, and then you've got Treasury bonds, or T-bonds, and those are the really long ones, over 10 years. The reason everyone loves them? They're seen as totally free of default risk. They are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, and that's a promise that has never been broken.
But hang on a second. Tying up your money for 10 or even 30 years, that is a long time. What happens if inflation just goes nuts and suddenly all that money you're waiting for is worth way less? It's a real worry. Well, the Treasury actually came up with a pretty brilliant solution for that. They're called TIPS. That's Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. And how they work is it's really clever. See, with a normal bond, the amount you invest, the principal, just sits there. But with TIPS, that principal amount actually changes. It gets adjusted upwards with inflation. So if prices go up, the value of your bond goes up right along with them. And get this, your interest payments are based on that new, bigger number. It's a built-in defense to make sure your money doesn't lose its buying power. And the financial wizards didn't stop there. There's this other thing called strips. Now, this is wild. A bank can take a regular treasury bond and, they strip it for parts. It's like taking a car apart. They take every single future interest payment and the final big payout at the end, and they turn each one into its own separate little bond. Now, why on earth would they do that? Well, it's all about precision. It lets an investor buy a bond that pays out a specific amount on a very specific date. So say you need exactly 20 grand for a college down payment in, 15 years and 3 months. You can buy a strip that does exactly that. Okay, so we've talked about Uncle Sam, but he's not the only one selling bonds, not by a long shot. The bond market is also what keeps our cities, our states, and the biggest companies in the world running. You've got two other big categories here. First, municipal bonds. Everyone calls them munis. And those are issued by your state and local governments. Then you have corporate bonds, which, you guessed it, come from companies. Now, the biggest difference between them? It all comes down to taxes. The interest you earn from most munis is actually free from federal income tax. That's a huge deal. And think about the scale. While you have a limited number of big companies issuing bonds, there are over 50,000 different towns, cities, and counties out there that can issue munis. And this is where it really hits home for all of us. Those munis we just talked about, they literally build the world around you. The school your kids go to, the roads you drive on, the pipes that bring you clean water, odds are a lot of that was paid for with municipal bonds. It's how our communities fund the essential stuff we all rely on every single day. All right, let's circle back. Remember where we started this whole thing? 2008. The crisis. Because tucked away in the bond market, somewhere between the super safe government stuff and the regular corporate bonds, there was this other weird category, and that is where everything went wrong. These were the government-sponsored enterprises, or GSEs for short. You've probably heard of the big ones, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And they were strange. They were technically private companies, with shareholders and everything, but they were created by an act of Congress with a public mission to help people get home loans. So they were this weird public-private hybrid. In that strange hybrid nature, it created a ticking time bomb because investors all over the world looked at bonds from Fannie and Freddie and thought, hey, these are basically as safe as government bonds. They believed in an implied guarantee. It wasn't written down anywhere, but the assumption across the entire market was there is no way the US government would ever let these guys fail. No way. And then, boom, the housing market collapsed. Suddenly, all those mortgages that Fannie and Freddie had guaranteed, trillions of dollars worth, a lot of them the risky subprime kind, were going bad. The losses were astronomical. And that assumption? It got put to the ultimate test. The government did have to step in with a mind-bogglingly huge bailout, proving the implied guarantee was real all along. And the shock of that discovery just ripped through the entire global financial system. Okay, so that's a lot to take in, but let's bring it back to the big question. Why should you care about any of this? What does the bond market have to do with your life? Well, the answer is pretty much everything. Think about it. A healthy bond market is how the US government pays its bills. It's how companies get the cash to invent new things and create jobs. It's how your city builds that new park or fixes the roads. And maybe most importantly for you personally, it's a huge part of where your retirement money, your pension fund, your 401k, is invested to grow safely for the future. When this market is sick, our whole economy feels it. The 2008 crisis was an absolutely brutal wake-up call about how important this hidden engine really is. It forced regulators to completely rethink the rules of the game, which brings us to the one critical question we're left with today. Did we actually fix it? Is the system truly safer now, or are the seeds of the next crisis already being planted?